The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hey, Joanne.
Happy New Year, Dom.
Happy New Year, yes. And Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going? I guess Happy New Year's. This will be the first time on here for... No, I guess the second time.
Second time for you, first time for Joanne. Yeah, Joanne missed out in January, but she's back with us for February as we start the month. Rabbit. So, folks,
Rabbit.
Yeah, superstition. I wanted, before we get started, tell you about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy called The Catholics of Oz. See a unique Catholic perspective from our friends down in Australia at the Catholics of Oz. You can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Oz, or as they say, OZ. So let's get right into our topic today. You know, one of the things that has happened in the past few years is there are many, many more people working from home than before. And a lot of jobs, when they hire people specifically to work from home. And that has caused a rise in, although it's nothing new, a rise in job scams, employment scams. And so we want to talk a little bit about what's going on with that and ways that you can avoid it using tech and because a lot of job searching and job interviewing and all that sort of stuff now takes place online through your computer via apps and all that sort of thing. So I want to start off with an article from the Wall Street Journal. We'll have a link in the show notes where you can read this that says basically covers laid off workers are flooded with fake job offers. And it focuses on tech workers. It says tech workers are particularly susceptible because they have high salaries. There's a lot of layoffs in the tech industry right now, and there's a lot of them tend to work from home, and that makes them somewhat vulnerable to these scams. And some of the information in this is pretty wild. It talks about how LinkedIn, which is one of the major sites for job listings, said it stopped more than 20 million fake accounts in the first half of 2022.
Wow.
That's up from 15 million in the same period the year before, and restricted 200,000 more in response to complaints from users of the site. So these are ones that got through. These are in addition to the 20 million fake ones, 200,000 more that got online and was started trying to scam people. Indeed.com said it removes tens of millions of job listings every month that don't meet its quality guidelines. So this is a big problem, and it's when you're unemployed, you're often worried about being able to pay bills and keep a roof over your head, and I think you're more likely to dismiss warning signs or even stay quiet in an interview in order to get the job, and I think that makes you more susceptible. So before we get into things that people can do to avoid these scams, what do you think of what's going on up front?
I didn't really know this was a problem. To the extent that it is, I had to ask my husband because he does this type of thing. He hires people. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, this has been running rampant now for a couple of years, because in the Catholic world, there's one place to go and find jobs, and that's called catholicjobs.com.
Right.
That's it. So if somebody made a fake site for that, good luck. But it's just foreign to me because of the world that I live in and the way I get hired. It's just very, very different. But this is disconcerting because these people are in good faith looking for a job.
Yeah. Yes.
And they can't get it.
Right. That's the
or
thing.
Worse.
Yeah. Well, and I've been out of the job market for 20 years, obviously, since I went to seminary. And the way you interview has changed so much in that time. where I still remember having to go and do the drive over across the other side of St. Louis, Missouri to interview in a company office to become a contractor to this major corporation type of deal. Like a lot of people did when you're starting out in tech, and they still do to this day.
Yep.
Those who are in tech, you oftentimes are not going to get hired by Microsoft or Boeing directly. You're going to get hired by a contracting company that is then going to put you in their office, in the Microsoft office, the Boeing office, and then eventually they may decide to onboard you to the major corporation.
Right.
So having these smaller companies that are relatively unknown interview you for a major position is not that uncommon. But yeah, what is obviously the challenge is this company you're interviewing with really a real deal, or is it a scam? And that's the thing that people need to watch out for.
We talked, I couldn't find it. I was looking through my archives, but I couldn't find out when we talked about this. But we talked a while ago on this podcast about this British company that was entirely fake, hiring web designers and graphic designers, and had all these people on staff that were just like, and it was an entirely fake company. And these people ended up getting scammed out of their paychecks.
Yeah, I think it was a headline that you and I talked about, Joanne.
Yeah, I think so.
It was the three of us that talked about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, it was really elaborate. And that's part of the problem. And this is kind of showing it. A lot of these companies, these scammers are not even companies. They're probably like one or two guys in a basement somewhere type of deal.
Right.
True. Or I hate to say it, a foreign country.
Yes.
There's a lot of that. It doesn't cost that much to put up a decent looking website and to set up a, LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. And so you got to dig a little deeper to see if these guys are for real.
And I would think once you get into the process, yes, they are going to ask you for information, to fill out the forms.
Very commonly. So the common scams are they either want you to pay for something like, you need to buy your own computer and things, and they will reimburse you. That's one scam, is they want you to buy stuff. But the other scam, which is weird, like when have you ever worked for a company that made you buy your own equipment to do work, right? And the
Catholic Church, that's pretty common.
Yeah, I was just going to say, welcome to my world.
In all the churches I've worked, whether it's the diocese or at the parish, I've always been provided a computer, but I've never had to buy my own computer and get reimbursed. But I suppose maybe that depends.
And admittedly, I would do it because the computer that'd be handed down to the pastor is 10 years old and on its last leg. So
right.
And I've done it because I'm a Mac user and no one else. I mean, give me a Windows and I'll be going, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah. Although Father Coy, as a pastor, you're the boss. You know what I mean? You're not getting scammed.
Yeah.
You're not
see how far that goes when you tell the pastor says, I want to spend $1,000 on a decent computer.
Right. But you're not.
But anyways,
you're not getting hired.
That's getting off track.
Yeah,
here.
you're not getting hired by a parish that you're not aware of. Right. So the other thing that they do is they right off the bat ask you for personal sensitive information, your bank account numbers. And there was in the article that they had an interviewer ask them for their bank account information so they could verify something about you. That sort of stuff is definitely a scam.
Yeah, see, and that's dumb because you only give the bank information if you're going to have your paycheck deposited to your bank account. So that's way later in the process.
Right. That's that. But even then, you could get scammed to that part of the process, right?
True.
Oh, you're hired. Now here's the onboarding paperwork and that sort of stuff. And because for a lot of these jobs, you don't have to physically go to an office. You get hired remotely. And that's the trouble. So we had this article talks to someone from the federal, what's it called again? The Federal Trade Commission, I think it is.
Yep.
And she gives some advice. Research potential employers thoroughly, scour corporate websites, the social media profiles of these companies, online reviews to make sure a company is what it claims to be. Look for misspellings and other irregularities, mistakes in the logo, for example, or a salary range or job offer that appears too good to be true. And one of the things I like to talk about is the job qualifications could basically be filled by anyone. And yet there's this really huge salary. You know what I mean? those sorts of things are red flags. But, you know, the looking for irregularities and mistakes, that used to be fairly, you know, common. But these people are getting more sophisticated, and they know that they have to be better at this and look legit. And that's tricky.
Well, I'm thinking here, especially in this article, where one of the people who got scammed said that the interview took place on an instant messenger platform.
Right.
Immediately, I would be like, Zoom or FaceTime or nothing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, some major platform that has an account that appears to be from a big the companies. If a recruiter is emailing you from a Gmail account,
right,
or Hotmail, even worse, that's can be a red flag. It's not a definitive, but
if you're setting up a website and assuming you're buying a domain, then it doesn't cost all that much to get an email service with that domain. You know, especially if you've only got one or two emails. So that's kind of things you got to look for, though, is it so-and-so 1234@gmail.com, or is it so-and-so at website,
right?
You know, at domain.
And if it's a big corporation like IBM or Microsoft or whatever, if their email is not at IBM or at Microsoft, and it's at Gmail, that's a red flag. If the website is some weird variation like micro-soft.com or that sort of stuff, that was another one they pointed out. So you got to be wise, clever.
One thing I don't know if people realize too is you can look up the employer ID numbers for any corporation. They are publicly available. And so if you're being hired, if there's some company, you know, Software Specialists Incorporated from this address, you know, you can go and look that up and say, does this company actually exist? I found one. Now, I'm not vouching for the validity of this website, but it's eintaxid.com. I forgot to put it in the notes. Sorry, Dom. But
my question, Father, is can you just Google that? Would a quick Google search help in that regard as well too?
Well, no, you can't. At least I wasn't able to.
Okay.
But I mean, but you can go find, there are sites out there, so you could go verify. You could check 2 or 3 of these sites that, you know, make sure they match. And if this is a scam company, it's not going to have a tax ID number.
Right.
Right.
It's, you know, and that would be your first red flag of, oh, you know, Software Specialists Incorporated from Virginia is trying to hire me, but yet the IRS doesn't know anything about a Software Specialist Incorporated in Virginia. And by the way, I don't know if there is a Software Specialist Incorporated in Virginia. That's just a name I made up off the top of my head.
Yes.
But, you know, that would be a good way to do it, you know, is when you're on the interview, say, you know, because if you're doing it remotely, you could be sitting there checking things out during the interview. And you could say, well, what's your mailing address? You know, in case I need to send something to you.
Right.
What's your phone number? You know, and if you do look it up, you'll likely have the phone number that'll come back. Then you can call the company back and say, hey, I talked to this person. Do they work for you?
Right. Right. Exactly. I was looking on the IRS website to see if you could search for EINs, the employee ID numbers, but I didn't see that they had a search. That would have been nice to go right to the source. So we'll have to make sure we find a good reliable source for looking that up. But yeah.
But that's something to think about, because, like, you know, the one I was looking at, like I said, I can't justify that this is a good website or whatever, but, you know, you can go and you can click on a company, or you can enter in the name of the company, and it will search and it'll show you all the companies with that name, you know. And that's so if nothing else, it's just another way to do due diligence. You know, you're not trying to do anything legal with them. You're just trying to see that, does this company actually exist?
And frankly, a legitimate recruiter or HR professional will welcome and probably think highly of you for doing some due diligence and verifying their information. You know,
exactly.
Can you give me what the company's, you can ask right up front, could you give me the company's EIN and other information so I can just make sure that I've got verified and that we're on the up and up? Or, I mean, could, you know, do you want to work for a company that's hiding that sort of information from you? I'm not sure you do.
They have to give you their EIN anyways when you get your W-2. So
right. So a couple other pieces of advice that were in the article that if you're looking for a job, you should rarely probably never share sensitive personal information on a site that isn't encrypted. In other words, don't enter information into an email, your social security number, bank account numbers, anything like that in an email, or anything that isn't a secure form. That doesn't guarantee that secure form isn't been put up by a bad guy, but that's just a low bar thing. Also, like we said before, you should never cover work expenses out of pocket before getting your first paycheck. Right. If they're paying you, then you're going to it's a bad scam if they're going to actually pay you. So the Federal Trade Commission has a website on job scams, and they talk about some of the most common ones. A lot of work from home scams, reshipping scams, where they ask you to repackage stuff and ship it to another address. That's a scam.
I was going to say, why? That's
They are usually things being purchased with a stolen credit card.
Oh, okay.
So that when the credit card company and the police trace who bought it, it traces to you, and then you've shipped it usually overseas to some sort of PO box somewhere that at a one of those box PO box
UPS store or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling to say, and mailboxes, etc., whatever, and then the trail dies there. They've closed the box and moved on to another one.
Now, one caveat on this: there are legitimate reshipper companies in other countries. Like if you want, I know like Japan's a big one. If you want to order electronics from Japan, you can't just send it to the United States because of trade laws and things like that. So you actually have to go through these reshipping companies that they accept the order from Japan and package them together and reship them. This is legitimate services, but these are companies. These are not in your house doing this repackaging.
Right.
It goes to a warehouse where this is done.
Right. No legitimate company is going to hire you to do this at your home. Another one of the scams is reselling merchandise scams. So someone tells you, you can buy luxury brand name goods for less than retail, and then you'll be able to sell those for a profit, like on eBay or on a flea market or whatever. But you need to buy the products from them so you can resell it. And then you buy it, and either you never get the goods, or it's cheap knockoffs, and you're out all that money. So that's one that's scam.
Gee, I'm glad I was in Tupperware early.
But Tupperware, you're dealing with an individual face to face in a company, right?
Well, not anymore. Now I've heard that Tupperware now a lot is done online.
Okay.
I mean, they used to have the parties and the whole 9 yards, but see, in reading all of this, I was just amazed at how many different types of what seemed to me like sketchy jobs people are going after.
Yes.
And I'm like, is it that bad? Although they're saying there's no workers for other things, why are people doing this instead of other jobs?
I think for a long time, it's because people, I hate to say, human nature is, these are easy, get rich quick sort of jobs. These are jobs where you can make a lot of money. And because we've heard all these tales of, that person started a business selling stuff they bought at yard sales on eBay and they make $10,000 a month reselling stuff on eBay for 3 hours a day or whatever.
It's like the house flippers.
Yeah, but that was like 20 years ago.
Oh, they're still doing it though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the house flippers. Everybody wants to be a house flipper because they watch HGTV where they do it. It's that kind of thing. But when we're talking too about some of these jobs where they're the work from home, like online jobs and things like that, you're not doing the resale or whatever, but there's still the same tricks are being done.
Right.
The same routine, the same issues are problems of, oh yes, how long was there the job advertisements for the type things up from home? Yes. Right. They send you a stack of papers. You're supposed to type them up, stuff like that.
Also, I should point out, there are legitimate reasons for wanting one of these jobs, work from home a few hours a day. I mean, there are there are stay-at-home moms or dads and other people who are, maybe disabled and who need a part-time job that doesn't require a lot of outside work or, a few hours a day. And they're looking for that sort of thing. So that's legitimate as well. So I don't want to disparage that and say it's all lazy people, but but people are being taken advantage of. Another common one is the job. They send you a check that, so you get the check, then you cash it, and it's supposed to send part of the money on, and you keep part of the money. And it turns out that the check bounces, and that comes back on your bank account. So what you've done is you've just sent that portion of the money away, and now you're on the hook for the money that you sent away.
And part of that too is called money laundering.
Right. Yes. And some of these are indeed part of big, organized crime rings that are running these sorts of things. So job placement scams, like their staffing agencies, you should never have to pay to have someone help you find a job. Those companies should be paid by the companies that hire them to find employees. You should not have to pay a staffing agency or a job search agency. And the same thing with like government and postal service jobs, where you pay us a fee and we'll help you take the civil service exam. No, I mean, you could pay someone to help you take the exam, but frankly, you don't, all that stuff, all the information that they're giving you is online for free. You don't need it. So just a couple of, that's from the Federal Trade Commission. And then they talk about do an online search, the same sort of thing. Talk to someone you trust to get their opinion, right, about this. Get a second opinion on things. Don't pay for the promise of a job, and never bank on a cleared check. Just because a check has cleared doesn't mean that that's legitimate, because it sometimes takes time for the check to bounce and come back on you.
I guess P.T. Barnum was right.
Right. And sometimes we're all, we all can fall for this stuff. I mean, it's hard to sometimes, some of these things really look legitimate. I just had I guess it's not a job scam, but I had a scammer hit me yesterday on text. I got a text out of the blue. Hi, from an unknown number. I'm like, who is this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, hi, James, it's Aaron. And I just, wrong number.
You're nicer than me. I just hit block.
Yeah. Well,
me too.
It could often be, yeah. I mean, I know I am nicer than I could have just hit block, but then I got like a photo of a pretty young girl and would you be my friend? And I'm like, that's when I'm like, block.
See, that's why it's like, I got one the other day. It's like, oh, the dress you sent me fits so well.
Right.
They truly do not know sometimes who they are sending these out to. Yeah. And I know that they're like text blasts or whatever. Yep. But I mean, some of the ones I get to, it's like, yeah, fine, sure, block.
For us, this is apparent and clear. I'm thinking about my kids, my teenagers, like they would be innocent. They may not understand. That's why I sit down and I talk to them about these things. Like, look, this seems like a regular person, or, teenage boys, right? They get a pretty girl who wants to be their friend. It's total catfishing. It's probably some fat dude in, Moldova or something. No, I'm sorry, Moldova. Yeah. I just picked you out of the blue. But, but it's a scam. It's a scammer. And so you got to be wise. You got to be wise as serpents, right? Is that how the saying goes? Innocent as doves and wise as serpents.
Innocent as doves and wise as serpents. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So we're going to have links to several different web pages that talk about how to spot job scams, the warning signs, the red flags, and that will hopefully help folks who are out there. Because I know, I mean, we have folks in our SQPN community who are doing job searches right now, and there's a lot of people out there looking for work, and we just don't want people to get sucked in and hurt by this sort of stuff. So if you have any questions about this sort of thing, or if you have any advice for people how to avoid these sorts of scams, or if you've had an experience you want to share, we'd love to hear from folks. You can email us at technology@sqpn.com. So let's move on to our first, I want to thank our patrons, and then we'll move on to headlines. I'd like to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, this time including Joel S., Kevin S., Linda K., Joseph A., and Matthew N. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give and make a tax-deductible contribution. And By the way, if you want to see our EIN number, it is at the bottom of our webpage on the sqpn.com. So just legitimate sites, legitimate companies, organizations do that sort of thing. Actually, I did that after a donor asked to say, hey, you really should do that. And I said, that's a good idea. We really should have our EIN there for charities as well. That's charities should do that. So let's move on to our headlines. So this first headline, we don't usually deal a lot in rumors on the podcast because rumors, there's so many rumors, but I couldn't help it because this is a rumor of a Apple product that I really wouldn't mind getting. So the rumor is Ming-Chi Kuo is an analyst who specializes in the Apple company and their products and that sort of thing. And he's got his sources deep in the Chinese manufacturing. So he gets a lot of that information. So he says that he's heard that Apple is going to release a foldable iPad in 2024. That has been somewhat contradicted by other people who are known to have sources in Apple's ecosystem, like Mark Gurman of Bloomberg says, we can look forward to OLED screens on iPads in 2024, but he hasn't heard anything about a foldable. So just wanted to check and especially ask you, Joanne, how do you feel about a foldable iPad? Something you'd be interested in?
I'm a Portuguese woman that gets very temperamental and very excitable. So I could see just one day going crash and both sides, folding it up too fast. And that would be the end of my foldable iPad. So no, I slam covers on my iPad at times when I'm mad. So no. I understand my faults and failures, and I just can't see. I'm looking at these foldable phones and I'm hearing about foldable iPads, and I'm like, but folks, you've still got a line in the middle. How do you navigate that line in the middle? And if it isn't a line in the middle and you're using it like a clamshell, then now you're again working with glass on glass. I just don't.
It's a little bit of a divot. Like there's a dip.
A divot.
There's a little dip. I've seen like in the Samsung one that it's not like a opening, but it becomes like it's continuous across. But there is a little bit of a divot there that you could probably sense with your fingertip.
Right. So if this one said it was going to be a 20, they're working on a 20-inch. So I'm saying, okay, so 10 inches. So if you have a 10-inch iPad, and I don't get it.
It's 20 inches diagonal.
Right.
And so you fold it half. It's not going to be 10. I mean, it'll be
like a 9.
10 inches to the center point.
Right.
But the idea though is it'd be closer to the size of your, typical chocolate bar phone.
A very large iPhone. Yeah.
When it's folded in half. I could actually see this being, very useful. I could see myself using it. Yeah. Because I have to carry my iPad, in and out of my car all the time. Right. Because I use it for my homilies. I could see this being a thing. Now, of course, Apple being typical Apple, let's let Android work out all the bugs and we swoop in and make it sound like it's the next greatest thing in the world. No one has ever done it before us, except Samsung that's been doing it for the last 5 years.
No one has done it as good as we do. I mean, they came in with the phone and they waited, let other companies come in and do in public. Other companies do in public what Apple does in private. Yeah. I'm sure Apple has had foldable iPhones and iPads for as long as Samsung has had foldable phones. They just didn't release them until they get to the point where they feel good about it.
Well, and Samsung did have a lot of growing pains with the initial fold, but it sounds like the new ones are very reliable. Yeah, there is I've not played with one. I'd like to. I've never actually held one, but there is a little bit of a crease where
that's what's in
where it folds. But I could see for myself this would be great to be able to fold up the iPad, and then the iPad would be well protected. You've got a case. If it's got a case, it'd be well protected.
I hate carrying around my iPad just as a big flat slab of glass. I had a problem once where my daughter was carrying it out to me, and I was on the patio and she wanted me to unlock it for her, and she just drops it right on the patio and smash. That was it. Goodbye, iPad.
And see, I've had that happen before myself, but I'm just looking at maybe it's because I don't see the same thing you are. My husband wants one of those. He said, "Why don't they have a foldable iPhone yet?" I said, "I don't know, dear. They haven't figured it out or whatever."
Right.
But it's because they want it more compact. But I'm still thinking the iPad for me is still that device that is both productivity and consumption. And most of the time, because of my eyesight, I need it large. The minute if you're folding glass on glass, isn't that going to scratch? Isn't that going to have more of a problem of,
it's not
damaging?
Glass. It's not going to be glass the same way what we see now.
Right.
It's a different material.
Right.
So
I think it's more of a polymer. It's more like a plexiglass than it is actual glass.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they've been having to figure out, right? Is how to make it such that it. So I'm fairly confident that once they do come out with it, it's going to have solved all those issues that you mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just too excitable.
Yeah. And just remember, all iPads are foldable. Now, some of them are very difficult to fold and they won't work anymore, but they can fold.
And yes, they can be blended.
Yeah, they can be blended.
Yes, they can be blended.
Well, the last thing to say about it is why iPad and not phone? And probably because iPad is a much smaller part of Apple's business than the iPhone. Anything they do to the iPhone impacts is 60% of their sales and tens of millions of people. So they're going to test it out probably with an iPad, maybe an iPad mini even, and then eventually go to the phone.
And again, iPads are much more awkward to carry than a phone usually is.
Yes.
So I can see it as this will be one optional iPad. Like they said, like a 20-inch release, a brand new 20-inch iPad that folds. But we still got our regular 10 inches and other ones.
I'm a firm believer that more screen is always better, but that having to carry around a giant screen is problematic. So best of both worlds is it unfolds, or like, what was it? Gene Roddenberry's had that. Actually, several science fiction shows have had this thing where you unscroll your phone and it unscrolls and it has a transparent screen and then it scrolls up and it's just a little tube that you stick in your pocket. I would love for that to be someday, but until then, foldable will have to be there. So, all right. So let's move on to that was fun. I just like talking about rumored iPads. This is fun too, I think, because the next headline: customers react to McDonald's almost fully automated restaurant. So McDonald's has a test restaurant in the Fort Worth area that is almost fully automated. That actually has people in the kitchen doing the cooking, but all of the food, the customer facing operations are all automated. You order via kiosk or via app. You come up to the drive-through, and the food comes out to you on a conveyor belt. Or if same thing indoors, if you walk in, they intend for most of it to be drive-through, but if you go inside, there's a conveyor belt that comes out there. And there's been mixed reviews. Some people say, "Oh, this is terrible. All these jobs that are being lost to automation in McDonald's. All these McDonald's workers are going to lose their jobs." Other people say, "Hey, I love it. It's great." And, it removes a friction point of having to talk to people because I'm an introvert and I hate talking to people, or I hate people, which is not a good thing. Some people say, "Oh, what if I need more ketchup? How am I going to, talk to someone to get that?" What do y'all think? Was this something you would seek out? It was something you would find to be part of the decline of our civilization? Is it hurting people who need minimum wage jobs? What do you think?
I think it's inevitable. And part of it is, and not to get political, this is just kind of statement of reality. As there's all this conversation about raising minimum wage and, $15 minimum wage and everything like that, it's going to affect how much it costs us to buy those McDonald's hamburgers. People still want their $5 value meal. Of course, $5 value meal now is closer to $7. But yet they want people to be paid $15 minimum wage. The two do not match.
Right.
That's a financial reality. And yes, McDonald's makes billions and billions and billions of dollars. Ronald McDonald is a wealthy man 100 times over.
Right.
But on the local level, the profit that the local McDonald's is going to make isn't going to be able to cover that kind of minimum wage.
All right.
Right, when it becomes cheaper to install a robot instead of paying someone $15 an hour, they're going to install the robot.
Right. And when you only have 2 or 3 people in the store at any one time, 2 cooks basically, that they cook it and they put it on the conveyor belt. It's not,
Yeah, don't forget this labor shortage too. We like a lot of these minimum wage jobs aren't being filled too. That's another. So this is not people to be paid $15. So that's too. Yeah.
And it's because we talked about with jobs, why don't they go get another job? Well, unfortunately, the jobs are out there, but they are minimum wage or just above minimum wage. And if you're taking somebody like the 12,000 people that just got fired from Google by random lottery, apparently, or 1,000 people from Microsoft, they're not going to want to go work McDonald's. And I don't blame them. They were making upwards of 6 figures, and now they have to make minimum wage.
They can't survive on a McDonald's job. Right. That's right. Yeah. Joanne, what do you think?
I think a human or a robot will still screw up my order somehow. So, but, there is a restaurant in my town right now. And in fact, after this recording, I'm going there. And they have one of those robot servers. Now, you don't order through it, but it brings the food over. I can see where that can be a help. Maybe not in a McDonald's, but I can see where that can be a help in a restaurant situation where if somebody, because I had a sister-in-law who became disabled because she was a waitress and had to lift all those heavy trays all the time, and it really did a number on her back. So something like this robot, which will carry 4 trays of food to a table, is a nice idea. Now, McDonald's, a Happy Meal isn't that heavy, but I have to go back and agree with Father Cory, unfortunately, because when you can't find the workforce, or the workforce is pricing out how much profit a company will come in with, then they're going to resort to technology. Where they think it'll be cheaper, but I'm not sure, is it really cheaper when you have to spend X amount of thousands of dollars to buy the robot in the first place?
Right. Well, and
maintain it.
You've got accountants who amortize all that out, right?
That's what my husband does.
So there is a point at which it makes more sense to buy the robot instead of the hire the worker, and that's right. I mean, from a human-centric point of view, I think people deserve the dignity of work and should be paid accordingly. I completely agree with that. But we also, didn't mandate that people have horseshoes and buggy whips in the age of cars. You know what I mean? Like time moves on, jobs change, and maybe this is one of those places where jobs are changing, and we need to find other ways for people to be gainfully employed in a job that gives them dignity.
And I will say too, I just was reminded, this isn't new. There have been back to the 60s conveyor belt restaurants where literally you put your order in and it comes out on the conveyor belt.
Or automats.
Yes, I was thinking the automats.
Kind of deal.
I always wanted to go to an automat. I think there's still one in New York City. My mom used to tell me the stories of going to one, which an automat was, you go in and there's like this wall of window doors, little cabinets
of food.
You put your money in, the door unlocks, and you take out whatever food you want. You want a sandwich or a piece of pie or whatever. So that was the way of the future.
I remember that well.
So it was the cafeteria on Star Trek Enterprise.
Yes. Where you get cubes of colored goo. So that was, people thought that would be the future of food. Thankfully, it wasn't. Not yet, anyway. So let's move on from some fun stories to one that is a little creepier. So the headline is a bit sensational. So let me just say that right up front. But there's a deeper story here. So the headline is, and this is from the MIT Technology Review, a Roomba recorded a woman on the toilet. How did screenshots end up on Facebook? Now that's clickbait if I ever saw it.
Yeah.
So what has actually happened is Amazon, which owns iRobotics, which has the Roomba line of products, they when they develop new Roombas, they hire people to test them in their home, whether employees or paid beta testers. And these people know that these are development products. And these particular Roombas had cameras on them on purpose for various reasons. And people know there's a sign on them that says video recording in progress. So you know that this this Roomba rolling around your house. So that woman had to know, unless she was like a guest or something to the home, had to know that this thing was recording. Okay, so there's that element of it. But there's a deeper problem, which is, and as they go into, data hungry artificial intelligence machine learning algorithms have been increasingly integrated into all kinds of new technology. And much of this tech uses these large troves of data, including our voices, our faces, the layout of our homes, other personal information, to train algorithms to recognize patterns. And so what happens is they suck in all this visual data, these photos and videos, and then that stuff has to be categorized. And so then they send it out to these companies, often in other nations, where they hire people at low wages to basically categorize things. And they draw a box, that's a door, that's a drawer, that's a dog, that's a kid, and they have they categorize all this stuff like this. And so these people are seeing all of this information, all of these photos in this case, and then these people post the funny things or the interesting things on private Facebook groups and social media. And that's how this woman's screenshot got on Facebook. And anytime you've ever, like Apple does this even, where they have when you're setting up a new phone, say, or a new Mac, do you want to use your voice prints, allow us to use the recordings to train the algorithm? Well, that means that people are probably going to be listening to these. Same thing with Amazon and the Echo, same thing with Google and the Google Home and all these other things. Every time you give permission for your data to be used for training purposes, that's potentially what's going on. So what do y'all think?
I think it's absolutely scary sometimes, the things we come up with this is one of the reasons why I've kind of been backed off of home automation and things in my house, and because they can be used for, evil as well as good. That being said, the convenience of these products really at different stages of your life come into play. My husband and I have thought about getting a Roomba as we get older, because it's, me cleaning the house every week. And at some point, would a Roomba be something that would be, advantageous? And I keep reading this stuff and I keep going, nope, I'm going to be cleaning my house till I'm 94.
No Rosie the robot to clean for you.
Now, if we had a Rosie the robot, that would be fun. But the dog, the Boston robotic dogs scare me. Those things do scare me. Yeah. But I just think that, number one, putting a camera on a Roomba, I understand if you're trying to map. Yep. But do you need a camera? Do you need something like, like a Wise Cam, like I have in my house for my dog? Do we need something like that? Because then that poses a problem. It goes everywhere and can do everything, including hit your bathroom when you don't want it to. So that, and again, who are these dumb people who decided to put these things up on the internet?
Right.
And it said they did it in 2020, so they must have been bored during the pandemic and had nothing to do. So they kind of threw them up there.
Right. Well, these are the people who've been paid to categorize, right? And so they're probably sitting in a cubicle all day, bored out of their mind, looking at pictures of people's kitchens and categorizing stuff. And
again, these were, as the article said, custom Roombas. These aren't things off the market with cameras. These were added for the purpose of whatever data collection. And it's of course, we talked about the social dilemma a while, a couple of years or so ago, however long that was. Yeah. But, in how much data about us is out there, and that these companies, there are companies, they specialize in making a virtual, quote unquote, model of you, taking all your data and understanding who you are.
Right.
And all that data. And, they've said it with Facebook for years. If you're not paying for the service, you are the customer. You are the product.
Yeah.
If you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Yes.
Well, and so all this data is collected and all this data is shared and all this data is sold. And every once in a while there's an uproar. Even Apple recently got caught with that, if I remember correctly, that they sold some data to some places that shouldn't have had it.
Right. There was one of the big sources of data that they don't have is all of the interiors of our homes, right? They know everything about us, the way we use our tech, the sites we go to, the apps we use, but they don't know about the interior of our home. And so that's one of the things these specially outfitted Roombas are doing. It's not that they want to put these cameras on ones that go on the shelf. It's that while these Roombas are doing their job, they're also saying, what does a home look like? What does the home of someone who lives in San Francisco look like? What does the home of someone who lives in Paris look like? What does the home of a family of 4 that lives in a suburb of Minneapolis look like? And that's the data they're gathering is what is, more and more data. We need more and more data to feed the machine to find out more and more and craft things for us. And it's scary because we've talked about this time and time again, do we really need to have that much personalization and specialization of the products and services they're trying to sell us? It's good for the companies, but is it good for us?
Sounds like V'ger to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, in home automation, at least, I want certain things done. So I want to turn my lights on, turn my TV on, do a timer. I'm not into, make all the colors of my house change in each room. I'm more simple. I guess maybe the younger generation is a little bit more complicated, but I'm simple. I just want these things to work and not invade because there's almost like a line where they're invading your space rather than helping you live in your space.
Right. Who becomes the servant of whom? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I like Jeff Geerling, of course, who we had on Secrets of Tech.
Yep.
He's talked a bit about some of these home, locally hosted automation services where you're not going out to Google, you're not going out to Apple, you're not going out to Amazon. It's all locally hosted on a server that you set up.
Right.
Which could be just a Raspberry Pi. Of course, that's his thing is Raspberry Pi. But
yeah.
But that way, then when you use these services, turn on my lights and do all these other things, it's all staying within your house. It's not going out to someone else.
The tricky thing is that all that stuff is beyond most people. It's a techie sort of thing still. Yeah. And we need to get companies to develop the stuff. And somebody needs to say, we're going to be the company that is friendly to the consumer and provide that.
Well, what was that? Eufy that we talked about then.
Yeah.
Right? That was supposedly what they were their big thing. Oh no, we actually are sending clear data. It wasn't even encrypted. It was clear data to our servers. Oops.
Right. So, yeah. So I would love to have a Roomba. I would love to have something that cleans my floors on a daily basis. We don't have one, A, because they're expensive, and B, because I have 5 kids and Legos. So,
well, I have one that catches. I have one I don't use because it catches every electrical cord on the floor.
and I have
to go
a
through
dog.
and wire everything up before I run it. So it's not worth it.
They're getting better though. And that's the thing that's amazing is how much, I was reading about how Roomba started. It was in the Boston Globe Sunday magazine this week. Roomba started, the first Roombas were over 20 years ago, which is fascinating. Wow. They predate iPhones and, the smartphones, all that sort of stuff. But they've progressed so far now, and they're so intelligent. Like they have a base station where they dump the stuff into a collection basket. All you have to do is every once in a while empty that centrally located collection basket, and they'll wash the floors for you, and they do all this stuff. And it's amazing. I love that idea of it, but there's a cost to everything. And
it's appealing. It's very appealing, but I still look at it as if I put one in my house, what data is going out? Yeah. Exactly. and to whom, and there better not be a camera in there.
Right. So the last headline I have is kind of a short one. It's a brief one. If anyone out there's still a Google Voice user, I actually have a personal Google Voice account, and I have StarQuest's phone number is also a Google Voice number. It's a very cost-effective way of having a phone number, and Google has announced that Google Voice is getting a new feature where it will add a red suspected spam caller warning to calls if they don't think they're legitimate. Now, for a long time, they've had this thing where they will automatically filter calls that they think are spam. And so you have to turn that off for this to happen. But for some people, they can't have it automatically filter calls because they get a lot of calls from unknown numbers. That's a big thing. So if you are one of those people, this might be an additional reason to get a Google Voice number and use it like this. The article also talks about how Pixels have some nice features that probably won't be in the Google Voice, but
yes, I'm actually kind of surprised that Google is still investing in Google Voice, only because they bought it how many ever years ago, and they sat on it for a couple of years. They didn't update the app. They didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden now they're actually kind of starting to work with it again, which is great. Right. Yeah. And of course I've got a Pixel 7 Pro. And so it has this feature, and that is so nice. Just when, someone calls and bright red, spam detected, ignore.
Yeah.
Or they're going to get rid of it. If they're starting to work on it, does that mean Google's going to get rid of it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Googlefy it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
No, I think they're actually realizing that Google Voice is something that is a big benefit to them. And I'm glad to see that. I had a Google Voice number at one point and just let it roll away. I just left it. But yeah, this is a nice feature. And some of these other features they talk about from where someone can call and I can just hit monitor, or answer for me, and it'll show the message and all that. Yeah, I think they probably will eventually bring stuff like that to Google Voice if they're going to do things like this. So this is a great feature. This really is.
I always give my Google Voice number to companies, any type company that I do work. And if I get a company that's annoying and I don't want them to call me anymore, you can actually mark a number as blocked, and it will tell them this number is no longer in service. Like,
nice.
Yeah. So that's a nice feature. I've had a Google Voice number since it was Grand Central, which is the company that they bought. Yeah. You, Joanne.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. So I've always thought this was a great thing. And one of the features of Google Voice is that you can have it ring two numbers. So like if you have two, a husband and wife, for instance, you could bring you both. And so this is kind of our home number. We don't have a landline in our house. So we give this out as our home phone number.
I'd love to do that with Kevin, but he would get totally confused and it might confuse him especially with tax season. But no, I've kept my Google Voice number. This is about time they've had this because every other company has been able to do the scam thing except them. And I do the same thing as you, Dom. I put it on forms that, or people want my number online. Okay, fine. You can do the Google Voice.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So it's good for Google. A little caveat though, not paying for it, the service. So therefore, what's Google's interest in it? Are they getting data from looking at the call patterns and the voicemails and that sort of stuff? So
yeah, and Google does the voice to text capability through Google Voice. Well, what are they drawing off of that as well? So
just like Gmail, that sort of thing. So, all right, those are our headlines. Let's move on to our picks of the week. Joanne, what's your pick this week?
Well, my pick of the week is a software app that I stumbled upon, although I've read about it for years, because I needed to free up some space on my Mac. I notoriously buy laptops that don't have enough hard drive space. So all of a sudden I'm going under a certain amount that I allow myself. And it's like, okay, I need to free up. So this is a product called Clean My Mac 10. And it is like the Swiss Army knife.
Oh yeah.
Of taking care of your computer, because not only will it clean your computer, it does the malware removal, it does installing your apps. If you don't want to go find how to do that, it'll do it for you.
Or uninstall.
That's what I meant.
Yep.
It's the old age. It will tell you when your apps need to be updated, sometimes before Apple does.
Yep.
So I get all these notifications saying, you need to update this. And it does some really interesting things where it'll point out, like, these are the largest files you have, or these are old files you're not using anymore. Do you still need them? So I've learned how to kind of archive things, and it has helped me, honest to God, free up about 50 gig of space in the last, maybe I've had it for about 4 or 5 months now. So it's a nice little program that does everything.
it also does a bunch of optimizations, like cleans out caches and runs maintenance tasks that are built into the system. That if you turn off your Mac at night, a lot of those tasks try to run at night, so maybe they don't get run. So this will do a lot of that, and will remind you occasionally. Yeah, a great program.
But I've also had to learn about those caches.
Yes.
Because I have to make sure that I'm not getting rid of things that I actually need.
Yeah.
Because that's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
That's my biggest fear, that I'm going to clean out something that I absolutely need. And this has been pretty good about helping me not do that. Yes. And it even looks into my mail attachments to see because I'm notorious for, I'll take an attachment, throw it on my desktop, and then forget it's still in my mail.
Right.
So now I have 4 copies of it somewhere because it's in temporary, it's in mail, it's in there. So it's a really great little product. I'm looking for the price right now because I ended up going into the once a year. I'm into the yearly subscriptions now and not the monthly.
Yep.
Because you tend to get a better deal out of that.
It's $35 for one Mac for a year. It's $90 if you want to do a one-time purchase. But you also, the Mac Paws, the company that makes Clean Mac, they're also the company behind SetApp. So if you subscribe to SetApp, you get it for free as part of your SetApp subscription. So, and MacPaw is a Ukrainian company. So when you support MacPaw, you support folks in Ukraine. So that, which I like.
And they're also the people who do Gemini 2 for the duplicates.
Yes, that's another great piece of software they do. So yeah, I've had Clean My Mac for years, and even before I had SetApp, and it is a very, very useful tool for keeping your Mac clean and working well and uninstalling old things. One of the things I love is that it will find orphaned files. So if you've uninstalled a program and it's left preference files or other things laying around, it'll find them and help you clean those up. So yeah, it's really good. Excellent. Well, Father Cory, what's your pick this week?
So I'm picking yet another game. You know, I like to play, especially, cheap or free games, try them out. And this is kind of the current one I've been playing with. It's called Albion Online. And it's a role-playing game. It's a multiplayer online role-playing game. And it's kind of a similar, kind of a cross between like World of Warcraft and Diablo. It's got a similar, the 45-degree up angle like Diablo has. But it is more role playing like World of Warcraft. It's again, it's free to play. You can you download the app, you set up an account, download the app, and you can play. And what's interesting about it is you can really tweak your character. You're not stuck with kind of the stereotypical, I'm a mage, I'm a warrior, I'm this, I'm that, I do this, and you've got all these different, guilds you join and stuff like that. You can be a farming mage where you're a mage who specializes in farming, or you could be a warrior who specializes in harvesting metals, smelting metals and things like that. Different trades, different crafts, different different jobs. And so you can really tweak your character. You can customize him how you want, him or her how you want. And it's the other thing is it's open. It's not like, again, if you played World of Warcraft, you go from quest to quest to quest to quest to quest to quest to quest.
Right.
Because there's always another quest you need to do. There's always, to advance the storyline. This is, you have an intro tutorial, which is a set of quests. And once you're done with that intro tutorial, you have no more quests.
Right.
So you decide what you want to do and where you want to go and how you do it. And again, if you want to develop a trade, you could spend, a day collecting cotton to make cloth, or harvesting copper to make copper bars, or building things, or, and of course it's got the store where you can, or the market where you can sell what you've made and stuff like that. So you can really go, and you want to be a fighter. Do you want to be more doing the behind the scenes, making the weapons and the armor and stuff like that? It really is very open with all that, and it's free. Now, of course, it's got the premium mode that it's going to remind you about all the time. And that's $15 a month.
Yep.
You can pay $15 a month. But there are ways that you can raise the money for the premium mode in the game. Now, it's very expensive. You're talking like, 1 million silver or something like that, or, 1,000 gold, which, there's a trade from gold to silver and all that. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. It's not going to force you to. There are things that you won't be able to do, obviously, in the app, but you can play the game, and you could play the game all you want for free.
The nice thing too is that it's available pretty much on every platform: Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android. So yeah, cool.
You can play it on your phone, you can play it on your iPad, I've got it on Linux, so it's
nice.
It's fun. It's an interesting, like I said, it's an interesting game, and it's something that you can do it whatever you want. It's much closer to kind of the more tabletop role playing games in that aspect of you can be as creative with it as you want.
Yeah, I like the idea that you could do more than just go fighting, and you could like build things and make things. I might check it out. It looks like fun. So my pick this week is a result of some personal traumatic stress that I received in 2021.
Aww.
So a long-time listeners will remember in the fall of 2021 that my family suffered a major leak in our house that left us homeless for 3 months. And what I determined was the leak had been ongoing for a while, and I didn't discover it until a lot of damage had been done. So I was looking at some home automation gear that could help with that. And so Aqara is a really nice home automation provider. They have a bunch of different products. And what they have is a water leak sensor. It's very simple. You put this little puck that's the size of maybe bigger than a silver dollar, and you just put it somewhere where you don't want water to be. And you set it up in the Aqara app. It shows up in the HomeKit. It's supported by HomeKit. It shows up in the HomeKit home app. And you do need a hub, an Aqara hub, for it to work. But then, when it detects water, and the thing is it detects water it's got contacts on the bottom, so it has to be sitting flat on a surface, and the water has to go on that surface for it to trigger. But it will send you a warning, an alarm. And if you have another device, like maybe you can buy actually water shutoff valves that are HomeKit enabled. You could set up an automation that when it detects water in a place it shouldn't be, it turns off the water in your house. So if you're away on vacation, say, and it goes off, you don't have to frantically try to find someone to go to your house and turn off the water. It'll turn it off right away. So they're really nice. I have one under my kitchen sink, under my bathroom sink, and by the hot water heater, in my house. Also by the water meter that comes in as it comes into the house from the city water. And no alarms yet. I still live in fear of it,
and it works with the home app, the Apple home app.
It does. You set it up in the Aqara app, but then it does work with the home app. So when I open up my home app, I look under the sensors section. I see them listed there, and they will tell me, whether, and they can send me. I have it set to send me an alarm if it detects water, and then I will go immediately check it out. So, yeah, and there's a 15% coupon right now on it on Amazon, but they sell for about $19 each.
Wow, so, these are very inexpensive and very.
Yes.
Ooh, I'm going to look into this.
Aqara in general I find to be less expensive than a lot of other home automation stuff out there. I also have the Aqara window and door sensors. They're basically a poor man's alarm system. That will be a future pick, and I'll talk about that at length then. But yeah, that's my pick this week.
And I was just looking for those of us who use Google. They are supported by Google as well.
Right. Yes, there's an Android app for it as well too. So you don't even need to,
Google Home.
Yeah,
Google Home as well. So
right, but you don't even need to have you don't need to use it through HomeKit or Google Home or Echo. You can also if you just want to use it independently using their apps too. So that's good too. Excellent. So that should do it for this time. We would love to hear what you think of anything we talked about today. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. And you can find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes on starquest.fm/TEC198, Tech 198. Write a review in Apple Podcasts or any of the podcast directories will let you do so, or share the podcast with your friends. That helps us grow our community and reach more listeners. That's the number one way we grow our show. So we really do appreciate that. We'd like to thank James for his research assistance in this episode. And until next time, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me in sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you, Dom.
Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.